We welcome you. Thank you guys for coming today. As you can see, we have booths for candidates and community organizations. We will have a hayride that leads to a petting zoo every 30 minutes, starting in 10 minutes at 1:30. And if you could line up outside the door over here, and kids can go on that hayride. And if you guys have any questions for any of the candidates, please feel free to ask them. They'll also be walking around with petitions to sign. If you live in a county where the candidate comes from, you can sign that petition and help them avoid a filing fee. So if people come up to you and ask you to sign, please consider signing. And most importantly, have fun, team. We also have a silent auction going on for a quilt, as you can see to the left. And we also have a Texas Constitution that was signed by all the members of the House who left and broke quorum and went to DC. So we encourage you to vote on these items and enjoy all that Smith Ranch has to offer. And we'll be back with more soon. Thanks, team.
Katy Area Democrats.
Hello, everyone.
Fall Picnic.
Are y'all excited to be here at our first ever Katy Democrats Fall Picnic? Okay, good, because I'm excited too, and I'm also excited to get to introduce our next performer. Someone who I'm privileged to have been mentored by as a law student, and I'm lucky to call him a friend. Collier is a poet, host, public speaker, and first-generation Mexican-American trial lawyer. He is here today for a very special performance of spoken word poetry, but first, I'd like to say a little bit about him. The descendant of Mexican immigrants, Zachary is a nationally recognized award-winning poet. As a undergraduate at UT Austin, he founded Spitshine Poetry, which is the longest-running poetry organization on the UT Austin campus. He's been featured on HuffPost's Student Voices as one of the nation's top 10 spoken word poets who speak to diverse Blacks and Latino issues. His work has also been featured in Bethany Press Poetry, We Are Me Too, Right About Now, Free Strike Press, and he has been a recognized performer in Austin State at the 2016 Austin International Poetry Festival. He was also named the 2016 Grand Slam champion at Right About Now, his local community of poetry in Houston, where he still hosts and performs. In his spare time, he practices trial law at Padilla and Rodriguez LLP in Houston, where he advocates for catastrophically injured clients and their families. So if you need a good trial lawyer, you also have that in him. He uses his passion to move not only poetry audiences, but also mediation groups and juries. He earned his degree cum laude from South Texas College of Law, which is where I met him. And while attending law school, he not only was a nationally recognized advocate and a Dutch Order of Barristers, he also was a creative writing, poetry, and spoken word teacher as a writer in residence for Writers in the Schools, a nonprofit. He's also a member of that outreach committee. Giving back to his community and mentoring are a big feature of his life and his beautiful wife, Ella, who's here today. Between the two of them, they spearheaded and led a mentorship and networking program for first-generation lawyers, the first of its kind under the Houston Young Lawyers Association. I first got to meet Zach when he was a coach at I was Zach Lucy, and even then, he stood out from every lawyer I ever met, and honestly, even up until now that I've ever met, for his passion for how words make people feel, for the measure of them, how they touch and persuade audiences. So I'm very excited to be able to welcome him for his spoken word performance now. Zachary.
Hello, everybody. So something I say to begin every show is make some noise if you're next to somebody beautiful. Which means everybody should be making noise and clapping. So I'm just going to say thank you, Nikki. Thank you to the Katy Area Democrats. I'm sure so many of you have been to so many of these events and have never heard poetry before. So I'm going to bring you something new and share some poems that are close to me. We just ended Hispanic Heritage Month 2 days ago, so I'm going to share some poems about my Hispanic Mexican American heritage and just some feel-good poems. Is that cool with y'all? Okay, so there's some general rules for poetry. You don't have to be quiet. You can clap, you can snap, you can say woo, you can give me feedback. I'm going to perform off the microphone, but I believe I can carry the room. So just thank you for being here, and I'll be around to talk afterwards. Thank you so much, and shout out to my wife, Bella. To be a Mexican man in Texas is to be confused for construction, for clear glass windows, a custodial caregiver to those who don't care, you can take out my trash, just not my tax dollars, to I like your food, just not you. To be a Mexican man in Texas is to have your skin swallow the sun. To sweat is to sway is to invite the light, and to invite the light is to be thankful for all the sun has done. For the last few years, more people in America have eaten more tortillas than they have bread. So I suppose the best thing since sliced bread is a tortilla instead. If only America loved my skin. So they did the food that Texas uses to be Mexican. See, Tex-Mex isn't really Mexican food. Taco Bell isn't really food. It's a version of Mexico we can all get used to. Yeah, we love guacamole and queso and tortillas. Yes, we love a culture we can consume. But years ago, 43 Mexican students disappeared. Where did 43 bodies go? Do you still have room in your stomach? To be a Mexican man in Texas is to have a whole plate of lonely to yourself. My reflection, it's a box of leftovers. Who I'm supposed to be, who I am. I am a Mexican man. I come from Mexican men whose hands they kiss bricks into buildings, whose hands kiss their wives like their wives kiss dough. 3 generations back, Spanish was all my family spoke. 2 generations back, English broke through the mouth of my mother, became the only math my tongue would ever know. So when asked if I speak Spanish, it's still mostly by white people, and I'm still kind of astonished at the question. As if I had to audition for my own skin. As if I had to speak so my blood could sing. See, English may have been the first seed to flower, but Spanish is still the soil. Language is like love. It's a lesson you never stop learning from. So for those of you who say you're more Mexican than me, I wish I could believe. I wish identity was an easy trajectory. Something you could pick up and follow and lay at other people's feet. When I was 13 years old, 2 cops thought I was a crime in progress. So they put their hands on me hot, like an iron, trying to remove all my wrinkles. I can still feel my insides crease at the heat. You still want to be Mexican like me? Or do you just want the food? I don't mean to be rude, but you can't pronounce what you were ordering. You love your houses and your highways and your homemade tortillas. But what about the hands that make them? Don't you get it? My blood, it is a song. Mariachis remind me of my grandfathers. They both built a house and a family without ever going to college. My grandpa Caballero, he picked up cotton. My grandpa Perales, he picked guitar strings. They both picked my grandmother's wedding rings. They are Mexican men. I am a Mexican man, and yes, I eat more tortillas than bread. I have 2 poems, so y'all did great. So just keep on doing what you're doing. Every April is National Poetry Month, and every April I write a poem a day. So this is a poem. The first poem I wrote of the year, and it's I feel like love poems to weather, love poems to Houston. This is a love poem to my wife. This is a love poem to goodness. So, I wrote more emails than poems in the last year. Now, before the first day of April, my wife runs her fingers through my hair like a rosary, and the spirit of my silence leaves my body like a phantom. Outside my window, a single wind chime makes the kind of music with its body that I've been searching for my whole life. Listen here, every sound on my street is a revival of more reasons to live. Light pools somewhere and everywhere, stairways to forgiveness. I forget the fate of humankind for 1 second, and a Houston sun cracks every tree free from darkness. I forget the fate of humankind for 1 second, and laughter falls like pollen. The sidewalk asks me to read another poem by Ross Gay. And before the end of the day, I am awestruck at my luck, at my love,
blasting from the speakers, the sound system of spring, a karaoke of divine timing. I mean so many things when I say I'm looking for joy today and always. The latest map of my heart starts with my 4-year-old niece coming over to visit me. Jessie is her name, and she demands we sit outside and look at the beautiful view. With the black cats I've come to love, run faster than the neighborhood children can rake the leaves of their youth. Come on, let's go. And so we do, and so it goes. A blue jay swoops and a train whizzes into action. The Hano music grooves, fuses with the smoke from oak and mesquite. I want to speak the commotion into a sentence or a lyric and tell you this is all I know. That locomotion is a promise made for giving my attention to something else besides my email. This poem is an engine loud enough to drown the things I lost and remind me what I found. I invite the wind of a moment into my home. I invite you to do the same. The horizon is a stone's thrown away from who I was yesterday. By now, I know what I'm here on this earth for. The consequence of living is clear. Time rewinds every time a poem appears. So I'm a third-generation Texan, a first-generation trial lawyer, and a third-generation American. My great-grandfather came into this country in 1947. His deportation papers were suspended by an officer in Brownsville, and he allowed him to stay in this country. And that's why I'm here. My great-uncle was killed in action in the Korean War before he was a citizen. And this poem is for him. It's called Killed in Action. This was written during the last administration. I want to talk about the flag. But first, I want to talk about the wall, about walls, about the way a wall is a curious structure that defines an area by telling me what is not allowed in it. There is a wall no longer standing, a wall that once stood in Lockhart, Texas. This is the wall of my childhood, the wall in my grandparents' living room that carried the portraits of Mexican men in their military service uniforms. When I speak about the wall, this wall, I mean these men define the pride in my family. In Washington, D.C., there is a wall, the Korean War Veteran Memorial Wall. Less than 2 miles away from the White House, the same White House that wants to build a wall between the borders of my blood history lesson. On March 19, 1951, my great-uncle Pedro Caballero was killed in action, KIA, in the war with 2 names, the Korean War and the Forgotten War. And from what I know, his remains were recovered, which means his body was not forgotten, even if the war was. They say dying for your country is the most American thing you can do, so I ask you, if a citizen is a part of their country, does that include the blood in their soil? If a citizen is a part of their country and a flag is a symbol of our country, then every citizen is a symbol. In February 1946, my grandfather applied for and was granted the suspension of his deportation at the immigration office in Brownsville, Texas, which means he did not break the law, which means my grandfather gained a flag, but not his citizenship, which means he gained a country, then lost a son to a war nobody remembers. Did you know the colors of the American flag have a special meaning? Red is for courage, white is for truth, and blue is for justice. I want to talk about the flag as a symbol, as an object, as a pallbearer that carries the coffin that carried my Uncle Pedro's killed in action body back into a country that did not love him. I want to talk about the flag and how in the 5th grade, I was in the color bar. And every Friday morning, I woke before the sun. arrived at school, and I carried the flag like an ode to democracy. Picture it. A small Mexican boy presents the flag taller than him before he pledges himself to America until he would become the perfect citizen, or at least a part of this country. I am a citizen of this country, but a glimpse at recent history will tell you citizenship is divisive, and I don't want to be divided. This poem is where I cross back into myself, where I praise the history of my people, my family. If I stopped writing poems about Mexican people, I'd probably vanish, like a war we forgot we lost. Red as the republic for which it stands, I'd probably vanish, like the blood in my Uncle Pedro's body. Red as the republic for which it stands, one nation's wall between justice and liberty for all. Okay, I have two more poems, and one. Who's ever made a roux before? Like a roux for gumbo or something? Okay, so I recently started making my own roux, and let me tell you, that is a lesson. Lots of lessons. But this poem is called "How Making a Roux is Like Learning to Love Yourself." Over the stove, I stir the pot of what I hope to be the foundation of something beautiful. It takes time for the fire to travel through every particle of flour and oil. I give my thanks to my wrist for the gift of consistent movement. My mind's eyes memorized by the merry-go-round of sounds and colors. The roux changes by the second, evolving into who it's supposed to be. And what about me? I'm afraid of my own alchemy. Who knows how much time it takes to change? The roux asks me to wait, says it's on its way, and somehow I find the patience I refused to give myself yesterday. When the roux doesn't burn, when the color of my imagination paints itself across the Dutch oven, I smile to myself, proud with purpose and love with who I just was, telling myself, all this time has to be worth it. Thanks. Okay, one more poem. This poem is about positivity and its power. I'm an optimist by nature. Most lawyers aren't. I'm trying to change that narrative. So this is called Houston. We have a poem. On the radio, Houston public meeting. I hear the voice of a man who was meant to land on the moon, but never did. It is the 51st anniversary of the Apollo 13 mission. Commander Jim Lovell speaks with both his feet on Earth. He remembers the sound of an explosion, though he didn't know, nor did the crew, that an oxygen tank just blew after igniting in the middle of space over 200,000 miles from home. If there was ever a reason to scream into the black void of space-time eternity, this was surely it. Everything went wrong at the wrong time. Yet, what struck me like a shooting star was not the immediate sense of doom, but instead what Commander Lovell said, that if he wanted to survive, he had to stay positive. Positivity is what makes a team work. 200,000 miles away from home, 3 men lost the moon, lost the water, lost light, lost all supplies of life. A miracle didn't save them. Teamwork did. Positivity became the gravity. And isn't staying positive another form of faith? I didn't know this before, but now I do. NASA named the Apollo 13 spacecraft Odyssey, an epic poem about one man's faith and returning home. Thank you so very much. I appreciate y'all for talking to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much, and thank you, Zachary, for coming out. Couple quick announcements. The 2 o'clock hayride is going to be leaving. If you have kids that want to go on the hayride, and then go to the petting zoo. please line up outside to the right. Kids can get free Howdy homemade ice cream if they get a ticket from the pumpkin booth out back. Next up, we have the esteemed Mike Collier running for Lieutenant Governor. Mike Collier ran in 2018 for Lieutenant Governor and came within 4.8 points of winning it all. And he's back to finish the job. He's an energy expert by trade. He's a loyal father and husband. And he's here to tell us how he is Dan Patrick's worst nightmare.
Thanks, everyone. I'm advised because I'm far enough away I can take this off. But I want to thank everybody for being very COVID cautious, wearing masks and keeping your distance. We have to get to the other side of this, and Democrats do right? All right, so I am delighted to say hello. I'm in the middle of a round the state tour. I was in Plano last night. I'll be in West Texas. I sleep somewhere in West Texas tonight, with stops along the way. And so I must advise you that I can only stay for a few minutes. But I will come back. You know, I live in the Houston area, and I will come back. And the best part of talking to Texans is the question and the answers, which I'm afraid we won't have time to do today. But the question and answer part, I call it Stump the Chop, is the best part because of years of doing this. And you know, I've been in this fight for a long, long time. It's the question and the answer so that I know what's on people's minds. And I intend to run a very, very substantive campaign and beat El Diablo. Are you with me on that? And I'll say this, you know, we came within 4.8 points, and there's an expression, particularly out in West Texas. They say that the football team never lost a game, they just ran out of time. That's exactly how I felt. And we were gaining on him right up to Election Day. And so I stayed on this, and somebody has got to win and punch through statewide, and I think 2022 is the year. Do you agree? Yeah. Right. And whereas there's a lot of similarities between the work that I did 4 years ago or 2 years ago and now, for example, we have a lot of problems we have to solve, and you can probably recite them with me. Public education. Any teachers and retired teachers in the room? All right, you know how I feel about public education, right? That always comes first with me. We've got to fix that and fund it. Second, property taxes. We're being ripped off as homeowners and small businesses. They are not being honest with us, and we have to fix that. Healthcare. We're the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. We're the wealthiest state in the wealthiest nation. And healthcare is a fundamental human right, and we have to live that value. You right? And then you starting by expanding Medicaid, and I'm sure you're with me on that, right? Criminal justice reform. We've got to deal finally with criminal justice reform. There are too many young men and too many young women sitting in prison. Not a violent crime, first-time offense, probably just a little marijuana. We want to get them out of prison, out of profit prison, which I do not support. They want to work, their parents want them to work, we want them to work. Let's do right. And by the way, as to marijuana, I think it's time we legalize it. Do you agree? I must tell you that when I campaigned last time, I was a little bit cautious about that because I didn't want my mother to know how I behaved myself in the 70s at UT. So I would say, well, people would say, well, how do you feel about legalizing marijuana? And I would say, well, I went to UT in the 70s, you know that. I wouldn't go any farther than that because I was worried what my mother would think. My mother now is in heaven rooting for us, and she would want me to say, we should legalize marijuana. We should do it right now, correct? And of course, we have to fix the damn grid, right? So there's so many things that we have to do. And a lieutenant governor who is a Democrat who can steer, and the lieutenant governor is the most powerful position, some would say, in the state, because the lieutenant governor sets the agenda. And look what happens when you have the wrong lieutenant governor. Why on earth does Dan Patrick waste everybody's time, for example, fighting trans kids? I mean, that is so immoral, just for political gain. So with the right lieutenant governor, we'll work at solving these problems. So in many respects, it'll feel like the same campaign as last time because these problems are getting worse. But in many respects, our world has changed a lot in 4 years. Do you agree? Yes. Can anybody in the state of Texas honestly say that we are better off now than we were 4 years ago? Or that our country is a better country than it was 4 years ago? Or are we treating people with respect and dignity? And is democracy working? The answer to all of those questions is no. There is a great sense of urgency, like I hadn't seen before, which is why we have to win. The Democrats will win. You cannot change the course of a mighty river. But we have to win now because people are getting hurt. Do you agree?
Yes.
And the last thing I want to say is, you'll hear a very big difference in terms of this campaign because of the sense of urgency, because Democrats have to answer the call. We are always the guardian of our values and our rights, right? The right, and it's all about individual liberty, it's about the Constitution, it's about the right, for example, if you're trans or LGBT, to live and to love the way your Creator intended, not the way Dan Patrick intended. And what they're doing in trans kids is absolutely no. The right to vote is under assault. We are the guardian of the right to vote. Not just the voter suppression, which we abhor, but this terrible redistricting that we see happening in the state. You know, as the state grows, there are many, many more Black and Hispanic and Asian voters. These new districts need to represent the new Texas, and it doesn't. And that is deeply offensive to all of us. So we are the guardians of our right to vote. We're the guardians to free speech. Look what they're doing with teachers in history classes. Can you believe what they're doing? Not allowing teachers to discuss history honestly and objectively. We must cherish the good in our history. We must learn from the bad in our history. We must teach history. And then finally, the right for a woman to control her own destiny, her own health, and her own body, just like a man does. And they have gone too far. They have gone too far. I'm going to share a little anecdote, a little story. I went to the Women's March. Anybody go to a Women's March? Woo! Yeah, okay. The energy is off the charts. And I saw Republican women with their signs and their reluctant husbands standing next to them at a women's march. They have gone too far. The energy is off the charts. And we are the guardian of a woman's rights, and we must fight that fight and hold our heads high. I know that I have not addressed everything in this short period of time, but I just want you to know that I'll be back, and then we'll get into question and answers. And you'll ask me the tough questions. I'll give you the honest answers. That's how I'll know that we're communicating, and that's what's essential, and that's what's missing. And so my name is Mike Collier. I'm asking for your support, humbly asking for your vote, and will you help me beat Dan Patrick? Yes! Thank you very much. And I'll be back. I wish I had more time, but I'll be back.
Everybody, a moment, please. Shirley, are you in the room? Hold your hand up, Shirley. I've taken a moment as president of Katy Area Democrats to recognize the most hard-working person I know. What you enjoyed today is because of the work, the drive, and the momentum of Shirley keeping us all on track these 10 weeks. So Shirley, as a token of our appreciation, I'm kind of ugly, so we bring some beauty into your life with these flowers.
So guys, we got 1 more minute for the auction. 1 more minute for the auction. So go down and get yourself a quilt in the Texas Constitution, signed by all our Democrats out here in Texas who left. So we got 1 more minute for the auction, everyone. 1 more minute.
Hi, everybody. I hope you all are having a really nice time. Thank you so much for attending this amazing event that was put on by the Katy Area Democrats. I really, really appreciate it. And we hope you have a good time. There's a great amount of organizations outside, so you'd like to go take a look at them. There's Powered by People, that's Redistricting, between left, top, Indivisible, MAGA, Mothers Against Crime Habits, and Gion Thomas Textile Democrats and Texas Vegetarian Veterans. So if you'd like to go take a look at the booths, we find more information, education, and learn about voter registration, please do so. Now I'm introducing Otis Demigaro. He is the Democratic president of the Harris County. Sorry, he's president of Harris County Democratic Party. So here he is, and he's one of the youngest. Might just be sitting in that position as well. And here he is.
Thank you so much. Hello, Harris County. That's pretty good for a Sunday afternoon, where we're all supposed to be like napping and stuff. Hey, I am so thrilled to be here. I am so happy that you all were able to come out here to Smith Ranch and get to know some of your Democratic candidates that will be on the ballot in 2022. We are excited. I know for a fact that Harris County not only is it blue, but it's going to stay blue. It is definitely going to stay blue. I know we have amazing candidates and amazing electeds here today. And quickly, I just want to tell you guys, like, look, our democracy is absolutely on the line. It is really fragile right now. And I've said this over and over again. It's going to be a theme that you're going to keep hearing me say until November of 2022. We've got to keep making good trouble. We've got to keep making necessary trouble. We've got to keep making noise because our fragile democracy absolutely demands it. If you were paying attention to the Texas legislature, you could absolutely see that we did absolutely nothing to help Texans. If you look at redistricting, you look at how we pretty much banned abortion. We've yet to expand Medicaid in a state that has the highest uninsured rate in the country. We've done nothing to fix the damn grid. So come February, March again, we're going to be on our toes, hoping that we don't freeze to death again. And by the way, you all are wearing masks in here. We still have a global pandemic that we have not adequately dealt with. If this doesn't motivate you as a Democrat, scratch that. You don't even need to be a Democrat to be motivated to know that the people we are sending to Austin are not doing their jobs. Oh, and I also remember, Chair Gion, they're trying to take away your freedom to vote. So it's bad enough that we're not actually doing things to directly impact your life. We're also trying to take away your most fundamental right as an American and as a Texan. We need new leadership. We need democratic leadership. We need progressive leadership. Can you imagine minimum wage is still at $7.25? Go buy a gallon of milk that's a little over $2. Go buy a gallon of gas for $2. What do you have left with $7.25?
You pay $50 kids.
Look at that.
And call
There's real life problems that is happening right now that is directly impacting your life. So when you see your family and you got to have that uncomfortable conversation, so I know this is Katy, Texas now. I grew up down the street, so I know the kind of conversation I have to have with some of my friends about getting up to go vote first and foremost, and getting out of this mentality that being a conservative is a tradition. Being a conservative right now is not helping lives in Texas. It's not. We've got to expand Medicaid. Too many people are in our hospitals dying because they don't have insurance. In fact, they don't even go to the hospital. They just stay home, Google a remedy, do it yourself, and it's 50-50. Healthcare is a right, it's not a privilege. I'm gonna say that again. Healthcare is a right, it's not a privilege. You have to be healthy to go to work. You have to be healthy to go to school. You have to be healthy to do the fun stuff, to go on vacation. If you're not, you can't do any of those things to be productive. So my challenge to you, get involved. Don't stay on the sidelines. Talk to every single person you possibly can talk to about getting involved, not just in the primary, but in the general in November of 2022. We need it. We need all hands on deck. I've been privileged of working for Representative Gion Thompson. Let me tell you something. This last legislative session was absolutely brutal. The dean of the Texas Democratic House, Centronia Thompson, let me tell you a little story. When she got elected in 1972, the newspaper called her, said, Negro woman wins her race. Now, when you put that in perspective and you fast forward, I think it's her 25th term, she told us this was the worst legislative session she's ever endured. Here's a black woman, when she first won, was called Negro. And here in 2021, she just endured her worst legislative session. We have real problems. But I'm telling you right now, solutions are on their way. We have fantastic candidates, not just in Harris County, but in Fort Bend. Not just in Fort Bend, but in Dallas. Not just in Dallas, but in Bexar. Not just in Bexar County, but in Waller. Not just in Waller, but in El Paso. We have Democrats everywhere that are ready to get going. I know 2020 wasn't the way exactly we thought it was going to go, and that's okay. It's what you do when things don't go your way is going to tell us the resiliency of Texas Democrats. I'm telling you right now, we're going to win. We are absolutely going to win. Change is coming. Change is coming. I can always say, continue to make good trouble. Continue to make necessary trouble. Because our fragile democracy absolutely demands it. Thank you all so much for I'm going to introduce let me just tell you a little bit about Chair Ginyard as well too. This woman is amazing. Amazing. Fort Bend was red. She took over unapologetically and said, by will, by might, by force, this place is going to be. Fort Bend is the most diverse county, not just in the state, but in the country. And you can see with the leadership, it's reflected. And it starts with the Fort Bend Democratic Party. It's under the stewardship and leadership of my good friend, Cynthia Ginyard, who, when I came into Fort Bend and we ran a special election with Eliz Markowitz, she told me, anything you need, I'm there. And let me tell you something, anything we needed, she was there. So it's a great pleasure to introduce my friend, Chair Cynthia Ginyard.
Thank you so much. How's everybody doing? Oh, let me apologize for being late. The county judge called the meeting, and so I have to go when the county judge called. The sheriff was there with me. So that's why he was late too. So we needed to get together. Redistricting is coming up. So, you know, we have to think all of that through. We've been through the national, but we have to do some things countywide as well. So we're trying to get all of that together. So glad to see so many of you out and got your campaigns going, all my Fort Benders, I see you. Yeah, this is good, this is good. I won't be long, ditto to everything Otis said. And my new message I will send out tonight, Judge Mike, is going to be 75-25. 75-25. I want us to do 75% feel good and 25% feel good. We need both. The feel good and what I'm trying to say is the field work. I'm just being cute about it. We have to win. This is politics. Everything in life is not about the highest number or the biggest amount. You already know that if you got any years up under you. But when it comes to politics, you got to win elections. So that does mean the biggest number. And the only way we can do that is grow our electorate. Now, I want you to raise your hand if you have already been engaged in voter registration and prepping to get the vote out this year. Many of you have, thank you, and many of you have not. Y'all tell me, I don't know what else to do but grow our electorate so that we are winners come the first Tuesday in November 2022. Now, is there something else, y'all, we need to do? Then you're free to tell me now, you're free to tell me later. But that's all I know to do is grow our electorate. And how do we do that? We gotta register voters and then we turn around and get them out to vote. I don't know about Harris County, Otis, but that's how we got where we are. Did y'all do something else to become winners? Y'all did that too? On the ground? Okay. I just need reassurance on that. And I didn't say it was cute, and I didn't say it was sexy either, because it is not. And I'm tired, but I'm not stopping. Because we have got to build towards November 2022, and you can't do that after Labor Day 2022. We have to do it now. We're human. We've got to ration ourselves. We have other lives like a job, family, house, all that stuff to take care of. So we can't do it all in 2 weeks. Little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. So join in the efforts, start your own effort. Everybody lives in a precinct. And if you need some help, I'll try to help you if I can, if you live in Fort Bend. We got to get started, got to get to work. Thank you for having us out, and good luck to everybody. Run a good race. I know it's hard, it's not easy, but good luck to all of you, okay? And you and I will be on the ticket too, right? And we never talk about that. Listen, as county chairs, we're on every 2 years, every even year, like the state reps and the Congress people. But we don't have time to talk about ourselves. It's always about helping the candidates and helping the party get where it needs to be. I don't have time to fool with me. And Otis is finding out that he doesn't have time to fool with him either. But hey, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. Thank you.
We have our last speaker for the evening. We have our Fort Bend County Attorney, Brian Middleton, who is the first African American attorney of district. I'm so sorry. Not Bridget. District attorney, first African American since Reconstruction to represent the great county of Fort Bend. And he's been doing amazing work that he's going to tell us all about as he rocks the catwalks, right?
I said I hit the jackpot with an introduction by Liz, man. She's full of so much energy. I don't know how to follow you now. But Fort Bend, in my opinion, is the greatest place on earth, and I feel privileged to be in this position at this point in time in history. We've had a rough couple of years. It wasn't too great before the pandemic, and then it got worse after the pandemic. But the result is that we've learned a lot. We're closer. We're cleaner. Everybody's got on masks, I see. Our hygiene is better. We're a lot more cognizant and we understand the value of humanity. You know, we've lost people. We contemplated death. And so now we're more in touch with our humanity as a result. And what does that mean? That means that our government should be more humane. That means that we ought to be making policies and decisions that reflect humanity. The saying is, when we know better, we should do better. But look, it's time. We know better. It's time to make a difference in our communities. And it's not just with our politicians. It's an everyday life decision. Respecting each other, taking other people's feelings into consideration. Some people don't want to wear a mask, but some people don't feel comfortable around you if you don't have a mask on. So it's a painless process to put on a mask and just to simply respect somebody else. Now, I'm going to talk about criminal justice and what that means for the Fort Bend County District Attorney's Office. And I got to give a shout out to a very special person in this room that I'm looking at right now, and that's Sheriff Eric Fagan. Every DA should be so lucky to have a sheriff that they can work with. I can tell you, I go around the nation, part of these groups, and talk to other DAs. And a lot of them don't have a good relationship with their sheriff. I think it's kind of like a natural thing to have friction between the DA and the sheriff, but not in Fort Bend County. So I'm very, very fortunate. But we have this discussion. A lot of people talk about progressive DAs, right? And, you know, that's an ambiguous term. And a lot of people really have different definitions of what that means, but I can tell you what it means for Brian Middleton and the DA's office. That means putting people first. That means making decisions that take into consideration collateral consequences. It means holding people accountable, but allowing second chances for those who deserve second chances. Not everybody. But because clearly some people don't deserve second chances. You know, and it also means that when we have a violent offender, then there ought to be swift, appropriate action, okay? We need to be safe. We all want to be safe. We all believe in humanity and second chances, but none of us wants a gun pointed to our head, right? All of us value life and want to preserve it. So those people who threaten that deserve and earn the right to be incarcerated, okay? And so when we talk about bail reform, one of the things that gets lost in the conversation is, you know, we talk about cash bail system being regressive, and it is. But what's often lost in that discussion is that some of our most dangerous criminals have a lot of money, right? You know, you see the drug kingpins on TV, right? You know, they got planes and houses, and you got thousands of people working for them. Give them a $1 million bond, and I guarantee you they'll pull it out of the back pocket, money in their petty cash into jail. But they're going to get out. And recently, what we saw in Houston was a police officer from the New Orleans Police Department got killed because there was some thugs out robbing people in an attempt to raise money to bond out one of their co-conspirators. So the cash bail system is not the problem. It's the people committing the crime, right? So let's not get it confused. The law is written to protect the innocent, okay? We always talk about those people and other people. The law is taking that into consideration that a person may be falsely accused, and we need to make the rules such that they are treated fairly. We can't write the rules like under the Star Chamber. Yeah, you did it. Prove to us that you're innocent. That's not what we decided on with the Constitution. We decided on the system of presumption of innocence. Now, where the rubber meets the road is how that feels in society when you have somebody commit a capital offense and they're able to bond out. Well, that was the agreement that we had in the beginning about fairness. So they get a bond, they bond out. That is based on the presumption of innocence. That doesn't feel good. Doesn't always look good that these dangerous people get to bond out. But that's what we agreed on as Americans, is that we would have a system of fairness. Because someone may be falsely accused of crime and made to suffer incarceration pending trial, waiting on the opportunity just to speak to prove their innocence. We decided that was wrong in America, okay? And that's what our Constitution says, and that's what bail reform is about. It has never, ever been about allowing violent offenders loose in our communities. And what we see in the media is unfortunate, but it's just part of the process that we need to work on and refine. No system is perfect, and I can tell you in Fort Bend County, I see Judge Fraley here. I know Judge Williams was here earlier, but we're working together to try to make this system more safe for all and more equitable, and ensuring that people's rights are protected, but the safety of the community is also paramount. And so we're working very hard, crossing our fingers. We have been in the headlines with those different incidents, but you know, we're working very hard to prevent that from happening. So I really think it's a testament that we're all able to work together. In Fort Bend County, there's the spirit at the courthouses that we all work together, no matter what. It's my belief, it's my feeling that we put partisanship aside when we get our job done, when it comes down to it. Now, there were people in office who didn't feel that way when I was running for office, but they're gone. So the people that you replace them with have a conscience and are willing to get the job done for the community and are serving our community. So I'm very proud to be a part of that class of people. And I want to shift because I see AJ Durrani sitting here. And I know it's important to him is that the redistricting that we saw in Austin, that's going to be finalized too. Yeah, I know, right? There's some definite winners and losers in that. But right now, what's the next stage of this? You know, there'll be litigation and whatnot. And it's my understanding that whole thing between Congressional District 9 and 18 has been resolved. So we don't have the dispute between Sheila Jackson Lee and Al Green being pitted against each other. So hopefully that resolution carries on Tuesday. But the next step in this, after we continue that legal battle that's coming, is local redistricting. You know, Fort Bend County, that's going to kick off this week. And there are going to be hearings on the 26th in front of the Commissioner's Court that are going to decide the new lines for Fort Bend County. Same thing is going to happen in Harris County. I don't know that timeline, but I can tell you Fort Bend's timeline. So, I'm encouraging everyone in here and listening to be a part of that discussion, okay? We were left out of that discussion, at least they let us talk, but they didn't listen, right? But make sure that you're part of that discussion next Tuesday. Weigh in. There's an opportunity for public comment. Everyone should be participating in this process because of the travesty of what happened in Austin. This is an opportunity for us to balance this. They've decided our congressional districts. They've decided our state house districts. Now we need to decide what we do locally. And that's important because, whatever happens in DC, it takes a few years for it to have its impact locally. What happens locally, you're going to get an instant, spontaneous response to it. So you ought to be more interested in local politics anyway, but I just want to encourage all Democrats to be engaged in this process. And let your commissioners know what you think the line should look like, right? I can tell you in Fort Bend, we have a Democratic majority, so they better be listening to you. If they're not, then, we got another problem, right? But be a part of this process, be heard. Let your commissioners know what you think is equitable. But in that conversation, I want you to keep in mind what happened in Austin, right? There are people there who just decided that our opinions didn't matter. The facts didn't matter. The data didn't matter. They were going to do whatever it takes, whatever it required for them to sustain their power and their dominance for the next 10 years. So here we go with local redistricting. I'm not about, about retaliation, but I am about fairness. And we should do what's right in these set of circumstances, and you should be heard. Thank you.
All right, next up we are going to have, I lied to you guys, I apologize. We have one more speaker. It's going to be Gion Thomas of Raw Take Podcast. He's going to tell us all about his work.
So, hi everyone. My name is Gion Christopher Thomas. I am the host of my political podcast, Raw Take. Me and my partner Archie, we've created Raw Take. We cover political things that are going on in the area. We talk about political strategy, and we try and highlight candidates who are running in local office, not only in Texas, but really around the country, to give them a voice to speak about their platform and the things that they're doing. And so I'll tell you a little bit about my organization, POP, which is Protest, Organize, and Participate. We focus on getting young people between the ages of 18 and 30 registered to vote, and also politically active, because young people have the most political power. It's one of the largest voter blocks that do not vote. And so that's our mission, is to get young people politically active so they can understand that the power they have. But one of my messages, because I also work as a political strategist, is my main message is to candidates that are running that you have to run on policy that is going to activate those young people to get them out to vote. Because we could talk about registering young people to vote morning, noon, and night, but at the end of the day, it's the policy that gets them, that drives them to the polls, that makes them want to vote for that certain candidate. So like Mike Collier was up here earlier, he talked about legalizing marijuana, he talked about jobs. Those are things that we have to focus on. Canceling student debt. Another thing is we ask people to vote, but we have to understand that it's sometimes so hard for that average worker to get out and vote. And so we have to make accommodations with the local businesses to get them out to vote. And so it needs to be all hands on deck. And so I want to thank everybody for coming to the KAD Picnic. We love that you were able to come out here and spend your afternoon with us. And just thank you all for coming. Thank you, guys. Oh, also, if you have not, please come up and sign our petition so we can let y'all know next time we have different events in the area, and keep you guys updated on what we're doing.
Hi, I'm Tammy Walker. I'm the Vice President of Katy Area Democrats, and I just want to take a minute to thank everyone for coming. We were really pleased with the turnout. I want to give a special shout out to Jerry Ross, our fearless leader. I think he's outside somewhere. Shirley Nicola, who is also Vice President. And all of our amazing volunteers. You know who you are. I don't want to mention everybody because I might leave someone out accidentally, but this took a lot of effort to put together, and we really appreciate all of our volunteers. I also want to thank Liz Markowitz for emceeing today. Gian for his efforts today, kind of as co-MC and broadcasting and broadcast. Also want to thank DJ HB. Thank you. Also, especially want to thank our co-hosts and sponsors who put their money where their mouth is and really helped us pull this off. So thank you all. They're listed on these signs and around the room. Also, I want to thank all of the community organizers who came out. They're out on the patio. They're the ones who are doing the real work with block walking and really maintaining momentum to truly turn this area blue. So thanks to them. Also want to thank Smith Ranch, and Katy Christian Ministries for coming out. I don't know what the numbers were, but we did donate a lot of food to them.